gentlemen, welcome to Azeroth Daily for the 3rd of February 2011. My name is TotalBiscuit, bringing you your daily dose of WoW News and Commnt. In the headlines today, Paragon have released their heroic kill video of Alec here, 25-man. Definitely worth having a look at. The link to watch it is in the description below this video. I would like to point out the rather interesting tactic of leaving around 6 or 7 of their raid members outside of the battle area for Phase 1, simply because if you have too many people in the area, then you end up wiping the raid due to the area of effect nonsense that's going on. That is very interesting indeed, and no doubt some people will be screaming exploit at this very moment. Apparently, intelligent use of game mechanics is not allowed anymore in the world of Cataclysm. Ugh. Thankfully, Paragon, of course, have not been banned for this because Blizzard actually has an ounce of common sense. It really is the contest month, ladies and gentlemen. The Jinx contest has been opened over on usbattle.net. It is only open to the US servers by the looks of it at the moment, and it is pretty self-explanatory. Design a t-shirt for Jinx. There is a design kit you have to download, which is in the link in the description below this video, and then you've got a submission page for it. So if you're artistic, you might want to give that one a shot. There are quite a few interesting prizes available for it, and the closing date for this contest is February the 16th, so get to it. The winners will be decided by a voting process, so we'll keep an eye on that. Blizzard has released a new guide to earning conquest points, and most of this you probably already know, but if you're unsure about the system, you can certainly do an awful lot worse than reading this. What might be of interest to PvPers is a little example table right here that has the ratings compared to the weekly points cap. So if you have a particular rating, you will have a particular points cap. A lot of people didn't know this, so it might be worth checking out. And with that, it's time for your Daily Blues. Cyrene is a little bit upset about the fact that Outlands is apparently way too easy, and as such becomes repetitive and monotonous. A response from Bashiok says that, well, they commend the fact that the player desires difficulty, however, they don't want to slow down the leveling experience. And I don't really blame them. He actually goes on to say that they have learned a number of lessons since the Outlands, and it would be possible maybe to go back and implement some of those lessons, but they don't have any plans going forward. They even admit that the Outlands zones maybe aren't as awesome as the Cataclysm zones. They're definitely not as awesome, I am afraid. To me, all this indicates is that there needs to be some kind of option to skip the damn place entirely. Gruntkill posts a thread on the subject of dealing with the vocal minority. Again, we really don't have to actually go into this because so many people post about this kind of thing anyway. What is more interesting is the response from daxxarri in regards to Blizzard decision-making and how they take various different points of view into account. He does, however, agree with what we already know, which is that the vocal minority do have this tendency to come on the forums and complain, and if there isn't a problem, people just tend to play the game and not actually complain about it. Jarwi comes along and whines as regards to getting ganked on a PvP server, because, you know, this never happens, claiming, indeed, that 10 minutes ago he got ganked by 4 Death Knights, followed by a priest. They all gripped, they all used 2 to 3 dots, etc., all done by one person behind the screen. How can you compete with that? Oh, I'm sorry, are you asking how to compete with 5 characters versus 1? You can't. Just like you couldn't if it were just 5 guildmates wandering around and you ended up slap bang in the middle of them. That's what's called ganking. It's been on PvP servers since the dawn of the game, and it's not going away, multiboxing or no multiboxing. How does that even make a difference? Talia comes along to remind people that this has already been answered about 5 million times and that they should check out the links if they want to see the blue replies on the matter. Also, that posting new threads about it probably isn't such a good idea, and if any of you guys are still unsure as to why multiboxing is considered okay by Blizzard, then check out the links that TailDR, or whatever the hell his name is, has provided for you right here in this particular post. And with that, it's time for your daily grind. This is technically a couple of quests rolled into one, but it's not really worth highlighting them individually. This is the end, quite literally, of the Orcus quest line, whereby we get onto Purgation Isle and we steal the battle plans of the Alliance. Orcus actually sacrifices himself in the process while you grab this in this highly cinematic quest, is rescued by his Frostworm mount, but unfortunately dies on the way back and is given a hero's memorial back in Taran Mill. Overall, probably one of the best and most cinematic quests that I've ever actually done. Shows a staggering amount of character development over a very short space of time, and as far as I'm concerned, is easily as good as many of the quests you will find in great single-player RPGs. So yes, more of this, please, Blizzard, thank you very much. And with that, it's time for your weekly feature. This is Mod Your WoW. We're going to be having a look at 3 mods today, and the first of them is a very, very simple mod that's going to be incredibly useful for jewel crafters and enchanters, which is in fact exactly what I am. It's called Prospect, and the sole purpose of this, as far as I can tell, is to provide some prospecting information and, more importantly, give you a very easy way of either prospecting a stack of ore or indeed disenchanting an item. You can simply middle-click to disenchant and shift middle-click to prospect. You don't have to click on any buttons or anything else, so that is extremely convenient, nice and easy to set up. If you're just a jewel crafter, it'll automatically bind to middle button. If you have enchanting, it will bind to middle button, and then you'll get another bind for the prospecting. It also does give you some nice tooltip information that you might find handy. Moving on to this one right here, which is Ore Crusher. You may have seen the screenshots over on MMO Champion. I decided to have a more in-depth look at it. And Ore Crusher is designed to interface with your auction mod in order to try and figure out exactly what the most profitable thing to do would be. It gives you a nice spreadsheet indicating possible drop rates, as well as syncing up with the prices on your particular realm when you use an auction mod. So when you buy stacks, you can figure out exactly what your chance of making any money out of them is. It will also take into account the idea of using gems and jewels and things like that to make items that could then be disenchanted. So it's very handy to have, honestly, very useful, and there are a bunch of configuration options available there as well. You can also manually put in prices if you so desire, although what I would recommend is that you extend the window somewhat. You increase the scale, because my God, does it get small. No question about that. Lower resolutions, it is barely readable, so you might want to boost it up just a little bit in the options right there. And last but by no means least, yet again, a very simple mod designed to make your life a little bit easier. This is Enhanced Stack Split, and it allows you to break down large stacks into smaller numbers. This is ideal if you're giving things out, say if you want to give out a bunch of flasks or potions or something, or you want to list a bunch of stuff on the auction house in individual amounts. Enhanced Stack Split makes that an awful lot easier to do, and it interfaces with pretty much any bag mod you happen to have, or indeed don't have. It'll work on the default as well. Okay, folks, and now it's time for the mailbox. This one comes in from Andrew, who says, for the past few days I've been having an ongoing discussion, which usually turns into an argument, about how player abilities and profession perks are disabled, have been disabled, should be disabled, etc. in PvP. An example of this is the disablement of engineering abilities. Is disablement actually a word? It doesn't sound like one, but we'll go with it anyway. Their reason, in a basic sense, is that they don't want players to feel like they have to have this profession. However, much like everything else in World of Warcraft, professions are a choice, like talents, gems, glyphs, enchants, etc. The fact of the matter is there is always a generalized best-in-slot kind of mentality with no requirement to follow it. So why choose to limit specific things? In the end, the argument generally comes down to whatever someone feels is overpowered or unfair at the time. Abilities like Lay on Hands and Bubble are always mentioned, heroism, etc. My own personal gripe is casters having a disarm and hunter trap radius and resistances. So I was wondering how to feel about disabling player or profession abilities in the game as a whole. Well, this is the problem with PvP, isn't it? And as far as I'm concerned, it's the problem with taking PvP in a game that is pretty much entirely stats-based way too frickin' seriously. Initially, this game wasn't even designed for this. In the beta, in an early stage of the beta, there wasn't even any PvP at all. They had absolutely no plans for it. It launched with no official solidified PvP of any description, but then it was put in due to popular demand. And unfortunately, ever since then, as far as I'm concerned, PvP has done a very great and steady job of damaging the game repeatedly in terms of its PvE content, with changes being made that do affect PvE players. Now, I understand that people enjoy PvP, and it's their right to do so as part of their subscription fee, but I think that people also have to understand this is an RPG, and as such, it is not designed for uber-competitive, arena, high-end esports, no-glass ceiling style play. It is designed with stats in mind. You get better gear than the other guy, you're going to have an inherent advantage over the other guy. It is not Bloodline Champions. It is not Dota. It is nothing like that. Arena play does not work that way. And I know a lot of people do like it, and yes, there is a high skill required to play at the top echelons of PvP. No question about that. It is there. It is blatantly, obviously there. But as far as I'm concerned, I find the entire idea of PvP negatively affecting PvE, or indeed PvP being something where variety is discouraged, to be a bad thing. That said, I also believe the same thing about PvE. Discouraging variety in any way, indicates that there are design flaws within the game. And we've seen that they've had to discourage variety in order to fix their own design flaws within the game. That, to me, smells like a much, much wider problem than merely disabling a few little profession trinkets. This one comes in from Seridan, who says, "Hello TB, I've been watching you for a while, blah blah blah. So, on to my question and issue. As you may or may not be aware, there are oftentimes a great amount of friction between role players, Blizzard, and the rest of the player base occur. The main things come primarily from misconceptions. What is the first thing when you log in on the big RP servers like Moonguard US or Earthen Ring or Argent Dawn EU? The first town you run into is none other than Goldshire, the back end of WoW. This leads to harassment from players who view the RP as in a light a little bit above a worm." Interesting use of English on this one, as you can tell. "This leads to trolls, lots of them, and many who say RPing is the nerdiest thing you can do in WoW. Considering these are trolls, there is maybe one legit argument. MMOs aren't designed to accommodate role-playing. This is slightly enforced by the fact that Blizzard rarely if ever actively polices RP realms. What do you think? Who's at fault here? The harassers, Blizzard, the design of the game itself, or RPers? All of them. As simple as that. It is a combination problem. The first thing you mentioned right there is what happened. You end up in Goldshire and hey, there's harassment. That's because our peers are acting like idiots. It's as simple as that. There's a reason why Moonguard US and stuff like that in the Goldshire Inn has a bad rep. Same with Deep Run Tram, etc. How exactly do our peers want to try and portray themselves as anything more than deviants and freaks when that nonsense is going on? And I know these guys don't represent all of the RPers, but at the end of the day, it seems to be something that the RP community should be trying to tackle in a fairly frickin' major way. Because we've seen some disgraceful stuff. There's all sorts of examples of ridiculous RP, ERP, all sorts of nonsense like that, yes, shouldn't be in the game at all. Certainly not in a teen-rated title. That's something that RPers need to respect, but also bear this in mind, that the nerdiest thing you can do in WoW, that's like a kid in the mathematics club pointing at another kid in the mathematics club and saying, "Nerd!" It's like, what? You're all playing this incredibly nerdy game by the standards of the normal population. So whatever you do in it really doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form. So they can get out. And then, of course, Blizzard. Where does Blizzard have to come in here? Well, the fact that they don't properly police the RP realms is disgraceful. It's like, why would you open them up and then not have the same rules? Like, oh, well, you should RP here, but we're not going to enforce it, so it doesn't really matter. And ergo, you find that a lot of people roll on there anyway. That sucks, and either they should police the realms or they should shut them down entirely and stop pretending that RP can actually happen on World of Warcraft without the help of Blizzard, because it cannot. If Blizzard is not policing to make sure that anti-RP behavior is not happening on RP realms, then what are you going to do? You as a player can't do anything, and hell, if you harass the guys, you'll probably get suspended for that. So, yeah, everybody is at fault here, honestly. Will they be willing to work together? Well, no, the trolls certainly don't care, Blizzard evidently doesn't care, and the RPers are often far too elitist to actually cooperate with anybody in order to build an RP community as it is. So I don't think it's got any future, if I'm totally honest with you. I respect people's right to do it, but there just doesn't seem to be an environment within WoW where it could actually happen properly without interference. Also, doesn't exactly help that the game is almost entirely freaking static and you can't change the world in any way, shape, or form. So it really is playing massive amounts of make-believe and huge amounts of suspending one's disbelief. Okay, folks, that's me done for the day. Thanks a lot for watching Azeroth Daily. Please remember to thumb it up if you like it and thumb it down if you don't. That's what it's there for. And I will see you next time.